Hi everyone, my name's Chris Stein and I am a middle school teacher in Liverpool and I currently teach 7th grade. Matt Stark and I are both at Sewell Road Middle School. And I thought one thing that would be helpful, especially during the global pandemic, COVID-19 kind of changed education, is to show you something that we found recently that we really like for our design and engineering and kind of the ideation side of creativity for technology students. So there is a new app called Jamboard. It's made by Google, and we're a Google school, so this makes it really nice and convenient for us, and our students predominantly are accessing our digital tools with Chromebooks. So let me jump right in and kind of explain a little bit about Jamboard. I'll give you some work time, and I'll kind of show you how it works, just kind of a basic overview, something short and simple and easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the intro and just kind of explain what I think Jamboard is and what it can be used for. I'll do a quick demo on the interface and tools. It's very simplistic, so it's perfectly aimed at middle school kids. You could even use it for elementary kids as well if you work with that age group. And then some ideas for the classroom, what Matt and I have been using it for here at Sewell Road. And then I'll give you some time to work and kind of play with the tool. It's definitely something as you're listening or watching this slideshow, you might want to have another tab open and just kind of play along with me, pause the video, and go back and forth. So first of all, the biggest question I get is how do you get to all these apps on Google? And Google has a really cool shortcut. All you have to do is go to the address field and type in jamboard.google.com, and it should come right up. It's obviously free if you have a Google account or you're a Google school. Your credentials might be asked for, but it's auto-saved. It is cloud-based, and it seems to run fairly well on cheap Chromebooks, which is what we have here in our district. So it's relatively simple. It's shareable like all of the Google tools, and it's a really neat little app that I think could get a lot of use, especially for technology education teachers. So let me just jump right in because I think that's the best way to show you what Jamboard is. So let me get out of this slideshow, and I'm just going to open up my browser here, and I'm using Chrome. It works best in Chrome, we've found. But I'm just going to go right up to the bar here. You can also probably find it in the waffle here, and you can see that I'm signed in. So I'm just going to go to jamboard.google.com, and it automatically comes up. I'm going to hit enter or return. And you can see that you get this save dialog. And if you would like to start a new Jamboard when you're new to it, you can just kind of hit plus. And the question I get from a lot of people is, how is this different than Google Draw? And it's different in subtle ways. It's better in some respects. It's worse in some respects. So I'm just going to open up this jam that I had created before, just to kind of give you a brief overview of what this is. So this is something that the tech teachers at in Liverpool were kind of all sharing. And what's cool about Jamboard is you have a share button here, right up here at the top. But you'll notice that it's kind of a visual whiteboard. That's probably the best way that I've seen it explained. You can obviously add post-it notes. You can insert graph paper and images. You can put text in. And there's some drawing tools over here on the side. So you have your toolbar, and you have your title bar, undo and redo. You can even grab a background, which they have a lot of like dot-based graph papers. They have a gray graph paper, which is really nice. And then you have a clear frame button that will clear it. If you do accidentally clear, you can go back. So as far as the basics go, it's hard to describe really what Jamboard is, but it's like a visual ideation. I kind of think of designers sitting around thinking about a cool design, and working together. And this may help with COVID-19 and social distancing. If you have students at home, if you have students in person, which we do, especially here in Liverpool, we need to be able to work together to come up with ideas if we're working on a group project. And this program allows us to do that. And you can see students can very easily create a jam and then hit share, add the email addresses of the students they'd like to share it with. There is also the ability to make more than one page. So in a weird way, it's kind of like a drawing tool, kind of like a slideshow, kind of like a text tool, and it kind of fits in between all of those different things. Now, as far as tools go, here's your toolbar over on the left. You have multiple tools. There's pens, markers, brushes, highlighters. The color palette is pretty limited, which is actually kind of nice for certain students. One trick is if you're going to draw with any of these tools, if you hold down the Shift key, you can get straight lines. And I know that's always a big concern for students. If you make a mistake, you can undo. There is also an eraser tool down below, and it's kind of nice in the fact that it doesn't erase the entire line. You can actually erase portions of it. So more complex drawings can be achieved than maybe Google Draw, which is kind of nice. There is a cursor tool which allows you to select things. Here I have some post-it notes, which we'll get to in a minute. But when you do touch items with the selection tool, you can rotate them. You can scale them. You can also, if you hit the three dots, you can duplicate, you can re-edit, or you can delete. And you can also set an order. So this might be nice if you're doing some more complex drawing and you want to layer your shapes and kind of set up a layer. And there are some shortcuts for that too. So that makes it really nice for that particular area if you're going to use it as that. There is a post-it note, sticky note tool here, and you can write your constraints or your specifications, whatever. And you can choose a color, right? There's even a white one. And if you hit save, it will continue, and you'll just continue to have sticky notes. You can hit cancel. And again, you can click on them, you can size them, you can rotate them. And this is actually kind of nice. I've had students submit designs to me, and then I can then write on these post-it notes and slap them right down and kind of point to things using the arrow and say, okay, I do a little bit differently here in this design. There is also an import or add image tool where you can do a Google image search. You can pull from Google Drive and Photos, and this helps our students who are trying to come up with ideas, or maybe they're in the design process and they want to make a collage maybe of ideas if they're bringing some different ideas together. And we do a lot of 3D printing here, and we try to give students a design challenge to solve. So this might be a great way for us this year to get students to work together, to be collaborative, and then kind of make a collage or an idea board before they set out to design whatever that product is that we're doing. So that makes it really, really nice. And students can upload their own photos and pull things in from Google Drive. So it definitely works on multiple devices, which is kind of nice. You can see we pulled in an image here, and again, they're sizable and shareable. And you can duplicate and rotate. There is also a pretty rudimentary shape library. You have some arrows, triangles, half circles, and you can simply use these for your basic drawings. Students can use line tools. We've pretty much focused on using the line tools and the pen tools up above, but those are there if you do want them. There is a text tool. This is probably my least used tool. But you can click and add your text boxes. Very simple. And what I like about this program is the fact that it's very simple, and you can take it as complex as you want, but it's really nice for starting out and working. And I've even shared this with a lot of my colleagues, and they've come up with some great ideas and things that they've done with it. Now, the one interesting thing here is there is a laser pointer here, and this is actually pretty nice if I'm in my classroom. And again, in Liverpool, we have this weird situation, and I don't know how your school district is, but we have half the kids are at home, half the kids are in person. Some kids never come to school, so I can actually go into a Google Meet, and I can share my screen, and then I can use this. I can have every kid join by hitting the share button. I can share it with the Google Classroom. I can have every student jump on, and we can work together on something. And I can use this, laser pointer to highlight certain areas and say, all right, guys, why don't we move over here, right? And we can do that. Or I can say, all right, and I'm showing the interface. And this makes it really nice for that. And it's also nice because I can put it up on my board in front of my in-person kids, and my at-home kids can see it at the same time. So it's really nice right now during COVID-19 to have the ability for everyone to see it. It just kind of simplifies my workflow. And again, we're using it primarily as a drawing ideation in the design process, working together for kind of collaboration. Now, there is this other side to Jamboard. You see this button up here. It says Open on a Jamboard. From my understanding, there is an actual hardware device called a Jamboard. They're like a digital whiteboard that would go up in your classroom. And it kind of reminds me of a smart board, which we're not really interested in here. We already have Epson projectors, but I think they're pricey. They're like $6,000 for one of these. But you can click that and then send it directly to your Jamboard, and then I guess it would show up for your students in class, and everybody can kind of work, in person and virtual. So that's kind of nice, but we're not going to spend $6,000 right now. Now, let me get back to the basics. I think I've shown you pretty much most of the basics. The tools are pretty simple. It's a limited palette. It doesn't have much. You can add more frames. They call these frames. You can put in backgrounds, right? I've even added picture backgrounds and then had kids critique. I teach a photography unit, and one of the things that I'm thinking about using it for this year, and I did a little practice with one of my study halls, is putting a photo up and then kind of breaking it down, drawing lines on it, critiquing it, and looking at how its composition works and things like that. So it really is open to your interpretation and your creativity and what you want to do. Now, getting back to the interface and the tools, again, the interface and tools are very simple. I think this is something you could show students maybe in a 10-minute demo, give them some work time, and they will be proficient in a short order. I know my students in the middle school, we started this, and I have 7th graders, we started this a few weeks ago, and using it for various things like our warm-ups and things like that, and they were proficient very quickly. It didn't have the learning curve that Google Draw did with all of the tools that they have there, so it's a little more simplistic. So what could you use this for? And I'll be really frank, I haven't really found a limit for it yet. Every day when students walk into my classroom, I have what's called a warm-up, and it's usually, especially right now during COVID, I'm having a hard time having students log in to my Google Meet, and I'm taking attendance. I'm looking at the in-person team, I'm looking at the at-home team, I'm trying to take attendance, and of course there's a lot of delays. So I've been using Jamboard as kind of a warm-up. I'll post some questions there, and let me show you exactly what I mean here by jumping back over into my Jamboard. So if I jump back in and go back, I've been using it kind of as a warm-up. And right now we're working with SketchUp and 3D modeling because it's safe and something we can provide to our at-home students and our in-person students. So I basically just take some post-it notes, ask some questions, and visually I put this up on our Google Classroom. I put it up, I share it through the Meet so everybody can see it, and I'm asking them to use a digital notebook. Matt and I have switched over to using a digital notebook now in Google because we do have the Google suite for our school, and we all of our students have Chromebooks. So we've been trying to embrace it as much as we possibly can, but trying not to go too far that it gets kind of too crazy. But I've been using it for warm-ups, and that's been really nice. Um, as far as other ideas and applications, one of the other things that I've done is had students, right now we're working in SketchUp and we're designing uh, lake houses, like a tiny house that's under 1,000 square feet. So this is something that was sent to me by a student. You can see the rough sketches here, and the student had asked me, do you like it, which is kind of funny for this age group. And then I'm posting some information here and then giving some feedback. So that's actually really nice, is I can give feedback directly on their designs. So it works really well for those kind of things. And I can circle and highlight and put arrows here. And you can see the student clearly didn't understand the shift to get straight lines. But, I got the general idea, and it's there. So that's good. Let's see, what else? So the other thing that I've done is used it also. Again, I'm struggling. I use my whiteboard in my classroom a lot because I'm a visual person. I have to draw all of the time, and that's just the way I communicate. So I was struggling for a way to find, I didn't want to set up cameras. I wanted a place where I could draw easily and quickly and share my ideas. So this was something that I shared with students. As we're working on our designs, we're talking about interior design and how we build a model in SketchUp that takes advantage of the lake view. So I gave them 2 different designs, and quickly made these in Jamboard to show the students kind of my thinking and how I was organizing it, instead of jumping right into SketchUp, which is interface can be a little more difficult. So this is a really simple way to provide quick graphical information. And as you all know, human beings are incredibly visual. Over 50% of our brain mass is devoted to vision. And I think middle school students really need that visual cue, especially the kids that I teach in my class. The other thing I have seen done with it, and I had this one shared with me, if I go back, is some of my students are making timelines in their other classes. So this is one of my favorite students. She's an 8th grader from last year. But this teacher asked her to make a timeline of 2020. And you can see there are 12 frames here. And as I kind of move through them, they had to do a frame for each month. They put in images, and they kind of used it like a collage tool. And I haven't necessarily used it like that, but that's another interesting way to do this. And I have, in one of the classes that I teach, I did ask students to create a timeline. It was on one slide, and I had every student join it by posting it to my Google Classroom. And then it was interesting to watch 25 students working together, adding all of this stuff in real time. And so that was also another great use for this digital tool, especially in the era of COVID and distancing. And I know that we're struggling here, at least in Liverpool, of a way to engage our at-home learners and our in-person learners at the same time. And so that's kind of what we're having happen right now. Let me see if there are any other ideas that I had. And you can see students are sharing different things with me and putting those on there. And what's really nice is you can obviously share them. Students are sending these to me and kind of showing me things. So that makes it nice to have a kind of connection with the kids. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do now is to jump into Jamboard. And again, that's at jamboard.google.com. Jump into Jamboard. I believe you can operate this from pretty much any device. I did have a student on an iPad the other day that was able to get to this and use it in a Chrome browser. And I think that's really the only caveat, is if you want to use Jamboard, I believe you have to use a Chrome browser if you're on a mobile device. And somebody can definitely fill me in if that's different. But what I'd like you to do is go through and try all the different tools, play with all the different little icons and things and create a little jam. If you go up to that share button at the top, you can certainly share that with me. My email is cstein, Stein, at liverpool.k12.newyork.us. And so if you want to share that jam with me, you totally can. And I'm just going to add a slide with my email here. cstein, autocorrect, at liverpool.k12.newyork.us. So create a jam and share it with me and kind of show me what you've learned. Put all those things down. Send me some funny stuff, some memes, some pictures, whatever you want. But put that in there, and I'd love to give you feedback, and I will write on that, and you can kind of see my thoughts, and I'll give you some feedback, so it'll be fun. All right, guys, thank you. Really appreciate you coming to my my presentation today. Thanks. Bye.